be consistent and be on video. You can do that, you can like crush probably half of your competition.
Learning from your mistakes is the most important thing.
True definition of fear is false evidence appearing real.
To make sure that I become that person.
I could be the start of your doors opening. You can't go wrong.
Simplify it.
It's pivoting.
How to get that number right.
That's my inspiration.
We just kept going.
It's just different.
I really feel like it's a God idea.
Man, you want to buy the right one.
You all really have more money than you think.
The direct to pay the most.
And to look yourself in the mirror.
And push yourself forward.
You still have the opportunity.
The biggest thing that's going to hold investors back is mindset.
First of all, it's the man. That's like what I'm looking for.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Daniel Upstate, host of the RNG Radio Show. I got another amazing guest on the RNG Radio Show. But first, what I got to do, got to run through the bio. So, after losing a 20-year job and going through a painful divorce within the same year, my guest embarked on a journey of self-discovery that led him to deeper authenticity, stronger connections with his children, and a passion for helping others share their journeys. Through his podcast, Life's Checkmark, ranked in the top 10% of podcasts with only over just 190 episodes. He creates a space for those feeling lost or alone while guiding people who have hesitated to start their podcasts, helping them overcome doubts and bring their voices to the world. He's become a podcast accountability coach, leader of a podcast community, a speaker, and an author. And I got him on the RNG Radio Show. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Emery. John, how you doing today, man?
Doing awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad for the opportunity. For those that don't know, we just created history because I just wrapped up being on his podcast. So, John, I want to talk about the job. What you're doing for 20 years, and then them saying like, hey, John, thanks, but no thanks, we're good now. What happened? Talk to me, man.
Sure. So started basically when I got right out of high school. I knew a couple friends that worked there. They were like, oh, you come down here and get a job. And at the time I was going to college during the day. So I started working there second shift, right? So it was going to college, second shift. And I was at a community college. So I wouldn't say it was like the Penn State or anything like that. But fortunately or unfortunately, I guess I got, okay, what do I need school for? I didn't like what they were teaching me, and I just stuck with the money part, right? So I stayed there, and I kind of worked my way up from basically starting to clean. So it was a printing factory. So the parts would come off the machine. We would clean them, take the ink off so they can reuse the metal parts for the next job. And so that's where I started. And then I worked my way up to where I was on day shift and then working in the logistics warehouse space. Right. And so been there for 20 years. I got the overtime, I got the vacation, I got 401k, everything that everybody would think you need to have a job. Right. It came to, it was about 5 years ago now. And it came to where they said, okay, we're closing the door. And it was around COVID, but it wasn't due to COVID. They just said they weren't making the money there. And they have another plant in Carolina. Whether that still exists, I don't know. But so they closed our doors and then wanted to move things down that way. So in October of that year, I saw like 60 some people walk out the door because they were in the manufacturing part, right? I wasn't running the machines. So they were done. They were done producing things. And then I was sat down and they're like, John, can you stick around for 6 months or whatever? And, they wanted the place cleaned out pretty much. And I'm like, okay. And then it got later and later and you know what I mean? So I was there probably for about another 8 months after those people walked out. And I was one of the last of the three to walk out the door. And so this was a fully functional manufacturing company. A whole bunch of, 4 presses, printing presses, and then some slitters where they took the big foil and cut it down to smaller size foil, and other machines as well. But all that came to a shell. And I'm like, for what? Like, I put my heart, my soul into it, right? All those years to get the money so I can come home for the family, the kids, the house and everything else. And then now it's just like stripped away. So there is no security in a job. So you might as well find something that you're passionate about and stick with that. I don't care how much money you're making, just be happy with what you have because now you can live a good life being happy doing what you're doing. So yeah, so I navigated through that. And at first I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I always wanted out, right? I always wanted out. And that, not knowing that God, and I wasn't even like a huge believer in God back then, but now I can see like something was making me move, right? And um, I was into real estate then. I had some rental properties. And I always thought that was my way out, but I never found that mentor, that person to kind of say, all right, let's do this is step one, let's do this and do this. So I wound up buying things on my own and do my own thing. So they shut the doors, so I got my out, and uh, I know a gentleman. I still know him today. He was on my podcast a while back, and he does whole life insurance policies and does the infinite banking concept. And I loved it because he set me up with it, and I love how it works. You just got to know how to use it properly, and people just don't know anything about it. So he was taking people on, and I jumped in, got my license. I was able to learn how to share it with others, the information, right? And that got me started with like playing around with YouTube and making videos and stuff. And, so I'm sitting at home, I'm not really working a job anymore. But I'm trying to make this work. So I went from a 9 to 5 to commission based, which is a huge difference. Huge difference for somebody else at the house too, right? And sometimes the kids would be home from school. Sometimes they weren't because of the COVID thing. So I was just trying to figure things out. And this is all new to me, but I was enjoying myself. I was actually like starting to feel good about where I was, even though I wasn't producing the income. It gave me, I think I got around another 8 months after that where I got my first, commission check. And I'm like, okay, if I did a couple of these too, pretty much, a month, I'd be good. Right. And from compared to what I was making at the other place and not put all that time into it or whatever. Little did I know, you want me to jump into the next topic?
Absolutely.
Okay. Little did I
Absolutely.
know that things were a little shaky at the house. And, I think, we were kind of distant and I didn't know really at the time until, behaviors were changing, things were happening. I guess I just would have never thought and believed that something like that would happen to me. And so I was like, what's going on? And I never got answers from anybody at the house. Um, so I basically had to work on myself and go through everything that I was dealing with in my head, trying to figure things out. It kind of makes you sit still for a little bit, And I know you said you went through a divorce and everything too, and this is where it went, but I didn't know what to do. I had a few guys I turned to, but in the area, but I wouldn't say that they're the ones I would have leaned on at the time. Um, so for whatever reason, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I don't know where I was when I listened to this, but I listened to a podcast, and it's called Dad's Edge, and it's for men. I know women listen to it too, but it's all yeah, right. They want to know all the
Selling our secrets.
yeah. But they have a community of men, and it's a paid community, and I never even thought about joining anything like that in my whole entire life, right? But here I am thinking and talking to myself all the time, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something there. So I called, and so you had to go through like a process to make sure it was a good fit. So they took me on board. I didn't jump. They have tons of Zoom calls and stuff going on, different groups and everything. They talk about anything under the sun for a guy. I never jumped on them because I didn't know where things were going. Like I tried to spend as much time as I could with the kids. And then plus I was doing some side work too to compensate for what wasn't making. It got me to a point where I connected with like 4 or 5 men, and they were basically a lifeline for me. So every time I had something going on in my head, like this person just did this at the house, or they called someone, something crazy is going on, and you just get that thought out of your head because we get stuck in our thoughts. And, I wound up losing 20 pounds over all this and the months that I had to go through it. Um, Lost lots of sleep. And I don't know how much more or how much more weight I could have lost too if I didn't talk to anybody about things. And if one guy didn't pick up, whether it was a phone call or a message or whatever, I just reach out to another one. I would say, two or three of them actually stuck out to me as far as always being there in a sense. One guy, he's like, from what you're telling me, you're going into the divorce, right? And I'm like, no, right?
Not I.
Yeah, like
Just sharing what's going on.
no, that doesn't happen. This is not what I want. And I didn't want it because of the simple fact my dad's side, they were all divorced. And then little did I know, Daniel, that my parents were divorced, but I didn't know until I was 19 and my mom said, I'm leaving your dad. They were divorced when I was a kid, but they were living in the same house, right? And so me and my sister had no idea. Other people knew. So like that was like a trigger too. And so now I had to, okay, now I really don't want to get divorced if my parents stayed together and make it happen just so that we were okay and they were still divorced. Like that's not the path I wanted. So I was all about trying therapy, whatever. Of course, it takes two to make it all work out. And so
I know.
yeah, so it was just this one, and it didn't go there. Um, this one gentleman who I consider a coach, because I hired him for one of his classes he had. He's been in that. He's been on my podcast too, back when I really first started, because I tried to get the people on that kind of helped me through my journey. And he was laying on the couch back in the past. So he's like been through that stuff and he had to move on. And he learns everything that's going on in your brain. I forget the big words he uses, right? But he got to a point, he was always, without even me paying him, he was always really quick to respond to my messages on Messenger. I find that very, very supportive and humbling of him, of just keeping me like in a safe spot, right? And it was one thing he always mentioned was just breathe, right? You're alive, you're well, just breathe, 3 deep breaths, everything's okay. It's not the worst that it could actually be, even though this is not where you want to go. And then he had a course called he called it a masculinity course, and at the time, Daniel, I was like, what the is this, right? I never heard of that word.
Or something. Got to fight a bear or tiger by the end.
Yeah. What's going on? Yeah. I'm like, I never heard of this. I never heard femininity. And so I'm like, okay. So I took it. It was a 4-week program. It was me and another guy. And the other guy was just there to better himself. He was already married and everything. But I'll be honest with you, the first 2 weeks I was just bawling. And this is like around April or May of that year. So a whole year after, I lost my job, April, May the following year, this is when I'm starting to take this course. The first 2 weeks I was bawling, couldn't hold myself, and because I didn't know where things were going. I tried the whole take her out, do this all, thinking that was going to fix things. I stopped the whole life insurance thing, because it was like, you need a job, you need health insurance and all that. And I get that, right? So I quit. I went ahead and got a full-time job again. And then I got side stuff and I'm working like 60-hour weeks again, right? Where I didn't really want to do all that again. And so when I took the last 2 weeks, I had more composure for whatever reason. I don't know what it was. I guess I was at the point of acceptance of where I was in my life. And, he told me that. I was more calm. I was taking notes and everything. And what I gathered from most of these classes he had, and I don't know where the notes are anymore, but to me, it was all about communicating and how you as a man communicate and how a woman communicates and how we're so different that we need to be on the same level and go, okay, I don't get you, but I really want to get you. Let's talk this together, right? Let's figure this out, right? And so like there was a whole mirror, I don't know, the mirror thing, right? So you tell me, Daniel, you wanted to go do something, right? Let's just pretend you're a woman. Yeah, there you go, right?
Just flip
yeah,
my hair for you,
I
John.
know. Yeah. Check it out on YouTube. But like you tell me this is what you want for the grocery store, right? And I go, okay, so I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna get this. And you're like, no. You gotta get this kind, this brand or whatever. And so you're like asking, okay, so you're telling me you wanted me to go to the grocery store, get this can of juice, and it's gotta be, I don't know, what are they out, the cranberry kind or whatever, right? and it's got to be just that, and it's on the second shelf, right, and down this aisle. So it's like fine tune. Okay, I'm going to get this. This is what I'm going for, just to make sure. But we're having that back and forth, and it's not to make anybody else upset that you're not listening. You just want to make sure that you're listening well. And so that's one of the things I've learned. Another quick example is like, you and I think logically, and they are more in the feelings and the emotions, right? And
sorry, ladies, I don't know if y'all heard the but I did it.
But so the real ones are going to go, yes, you are correct, right? Yeah,
Because I understand.
yeah, exactly, right? Because they went through some stuff and they worked on themselves. So your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever could say, hey, look, when dinner's done, I'm going to go to bed. Could you just put the food away, the leftovers? And you're like, great. Yeah. So the food's still in the pot. You put the lid on, you throw it in the refrigerator. Why? Because why would you dirty another dish just to clean that pot? Right? We can have the leftovers tomorrow. Right. So it makes sense to me. But your girlfriend or whatever gets mad that she finds out that you threw it in there like that. And she gets mad that you should have taken it out, put it in a Tupperware container, put it in the refrigerator, wash the dishes, and then put the dishes away. Right. But she didn't say all that. She just said, I did what you see.
John. Right. We're supposed to read minds. That's what we do.
So I did exactly what you told me to do, just not exactly how you wanted me to do it, because you didn't tell me how you really wanted me to do it. So it's all about understanding each other. And that's what I got mostly from his class. And then, it led me down another path where he said, okay, go listen to Allison Armstrong, which I think is amazing. You might have seen her on some podcasts lately, but I listened to her way back then. And she has some recordings from previous conferences I listened to that he gave me, and Understanding a Woman, which I still think is incredible. And then some other titles he gave me. So I went down that path, right? To kind of, okay, this is how they do work, right? And that, we are primitive beings where you and I are, we're always out there to provide and support and take care of everybody, right? And they're just out there, they want to be free flowing and enjoy life and, just make you feel better and let you be the king you're supposed to be. Right. But we lose all that. We lose all that with society and everything. So I dove into that, dove into some podcasts, and it got me to a place where after, and I kept going with that stuff after she said the word divorce, but it was at the end of May, the following year after I lost my job. She mentioned the word divorce, and I said, I'm done. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm not trying to figure out anymore. And obviously, she went on a different path. She was doing her own thing. And then it was just basically like, okay, here I am. And you said it to me, not too long ago, okay, now I got to get through this. And what am I going to do? And when I said okay to that, like I had a lot of weight lifted off of me as far as trying to figure things out and keeping things like, let's stay together. And it wasn't going to happen. Then I had to figure out, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? So I had to work on myself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, relationships in the business and finance. Like I had the 5 areas that I wanted to work on, and that's what I started to do. So yeah, it was a lot. And, feel free to ask questions on anything. And I'd love to, answer whatever you have coming at me.
I got like 5.
5. Okay. Not 50, just 5.
Yeah, just 5.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's about to be 6. For those that are watching on YouTube, he has the adorable little puppy on camera right now. So apologies. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not a dog lover. I don't like dogs, but if I see a dog, oh my gosh, it warms my heart and soul. My wife's trying to get a dog, but we won't get a dog. My first question, John, losing the 20-year job, because I've experienced, layoffs. I've turned myself because I was just horrible in college, telling the manager, like, you guys need me more than I need you. I don't know if you know this. I got 3 years at Marshalls, and I was working at TJ Maxx thinking I was hot stuff. Nonetheless, you're at a job for 20 years. You're already looking to try to find that new pathway. How does one mentally prepare themselves, that they know that the writing's on the wall, we're about to merge, there's an acquisition coming up, folks are leaving. I just saw 60 people walk out. How does that mental preparation, or how do you stay mentally strong through it all, through that, the writing's on the wall, terminations coming, layoffs are coming? How does one stay mentally strengthened through that?
That's a great question. So at the time, I didn't believe we were gonna close, right? Everybody around me was like, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming," because they were doing things that I'd never seen before. But everybody's like, "Yeah, this is what's happening." And so I was so optimistic that it wasn't going to happen. And then when it came, and I had to tell somebody else at the house, it was just like, "What are we going to do?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is nothing I prepared for. Um, and then for me, I'm like, okay, I got 8 months pretty much because they just kept extending me. So it wasn't like sudden like the others got. I think they had a month before they had to walk out the door. It was quicker for them. Yeah, the mindset, man, I'll tell you, it's not easy. Um, and I wouldn't say at the time I was around the right people that would have said it's okay. I did have there was somebody, I don't know if it was after or whatever, they're like, congratulations, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
huh?
It's like, oh, okay. Is there
Yeah, yeah. So like
coming?
yeah. Right. So like at the time, it's like, what do you mean? Right. But looking back, it's like, what a relief. And it kind of just like it got me to a point where whatever happens now, if it was a job now or anything like that, then okay, there's other jobs out there. It's just like listening to Gary Vee and stuff every once in a while.
Yeah.
He's just like, just pour your heart out into what you love, and you can always get a job. You can always get a job doing something, right? It doesn't have to be what you love, but you can get a job. So if you can do what you love and make money off of that, then that's even better. But you have to do it. You have to try. You have to reach out there because it got me to a point where, and I'll probably go a little off track here. It got me to a point
Oh,
where
you're good.
I just want to be me, right? And going through all this, I think I found myself. I don't think I was who I was supposed to be back then. Getting up, I call it like a mold. Getting up, going to work, coming home, taking care of the family, kids, house, etc. Rinse and repeat, and somebody's basically setting your schedule when you're home, right? And you don't have too much say sometimes, and you're just going into the flow. You get stuck, and you become somebody who you think you are supposed to be, but you're really not because you're structured in that way, right? I wish, and I told my son the other day, because he's starting to work now too, and I'm like, he's 16, so he's still young, but I'm like, don't get stuck chasing money. Don't get stuck working all the time. I'm like, I did some 68-hour weeks back then when he was still a baby. I'm like, I missed a lot of time when you were little. And then when I had my daughter, I'm like, I'm not doing it again. But I wish I didn't go through that with him. And so like, I gotta share that with my kids, right? And they might not understand until they get to that point. But yeah, man, just to have that mindset to know that how you can push through something. Now to me it's so easy. Like I'm just gonna do what I can do. And if things work, they work. If they don't, they don't, and we'll just learn from the process and just keep moving forward. Trial and error, failure, and see what happens. Um, I think as a man, Daniel, I think then I was kind of lost, right? Because we're supposed to have all the answers. We're supposed to be the ones that keep going and keep moving forward. But when you fall apart and you don't have somebody to support you and be there to do what you probably are meant to do, then that hurts even worse, right? Kind of makes you feel like crap. And I'm not saying that I got a lot of that, but there should have been like, how can we work together? Like this is our problem, not my problem, right? And so that's the other thing too I learned.
Yeah.
Like, let's focus on the problem, not you as a partner being the problem, right? This is us. We're conjoined together and we're supposed to work on things. Yeah, I think Daniel, I probably stretched this out pretty far here, but finding that mindset, man, is just like start listening to the good stuff, start listening to the right people, seek help, and just like my podcast is just like know that you're not alone, and that you're going down the road that is probably traveled a lot more than what you think.
Yeah.
People just don't want to raise their voices and say that I've been there too because it sucked, right?
And they don't relive, have triggers set off, or thinking about what happened. When we were talking earlier, I remember this one fun argument about ketchup. When you were going over the canned juice, and I was like, yeah, it was that damn ketchup. We were fighting over who got ketchup. And I was like, no, I got the receipt showing. Nah, you didn't get the ketchup. I got the ketchup. And I'm like, no, this is, it's on the receipt. I'm showing you this. And it turned into this whole big, shouting match. And I'm like, man, I was fighting over ketchup years ago. This is crazy. So, but I'm stronger because of it. Stronger because of it.
So can I question that?
Yes.
Was it really about the ketchup?
It was not about the ketchup.
Exactly right.
No, it was not about the ketchup.
Exactly.
Do I recall the Hunt's ketchup sitting there? And I'm like, maybe if I got the Heinz, it would have been different. Maybe if I threw the Heinz at her, it would have been different. But no. It's all good. It's all good. Father to father. Because I have filled myself, I've definitely become that stronger male role model for my son, despite what's going on, and really just pouring into him like, hey, if you want to get a job, don't do it because of the money. Find that passion that's inside of you. Make sure you making money, but don't do it because it's like, oh, I'm making $1 million because of it. As a father, though, Jon, how have you become greater and better to your kids post-divorce?
I want to share that first of all, I have them every 7 days, so I don't see them all the time, and even talking to them sometimes when I don't have them is hard, right? Sometimes they don't answer, or I'm busy. Even through a text is kind of tough too. Sometimes they're teenagers. I'm not gonna beat them. Yeah. So I feel lost as a father sometimes, right? Even when they're here, they're just doing their own thing anyways, right? So it's like they only want to hang out with that anyways. So it's hard. It's really a struggle. And I've heard about this too. So we go through this phase, and then they're gonna realize what you said when they're 19, 20, maybe, that you were right. And then they're gonna come back around and start listening to you instead of listening to their friends. But right now they want to listen to their friends and do things. Right. So I try to reach out to them, and I try to share with them things just like I mentioned about the whole work thing. Um, just the experiences I've been through. And, I find more, my daughter's 13, so I find more of my son coming to me, asking me questions I never even thought he would be coming to me for, right? And I'm glad he is. And I try to share with them, just come to me about anything. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here for anything like that. I'm just here to support you and help you in any way possible, right? And I'll give you advice, and you might just have to learn on your own, right? And that's how how I want to show up. I want to make it a safe space so they don't think that I'm judging them and they can't come to me about anything, even if something goes wrong and it's not their fault, but it's something wrong on them, where, it's, let's just say it was like the, good touch, bad touch kind of stuff, right? I just want to know, because I want to be that person to be there for you. You don't have to run to somebody else. I'm your father. I'm always going to be here. And I say it probably over and over again. They probably, yeah, okay, Dad, get tired of it. Yeah, I'm gonna go, oh yeah, I'm gonna talk to my friends. Okay. But I think as a father, we just have to keep sharing and keep showing up, whether they pay attention or not in the moment, just to let them know that we're always there no matter what, right? And so I know it's kind of hard for my daughter, because I keep, I'm a man, she's a woman. And she's like, "No, I don't want to hear what you have to say about me about this stuff." Right?
Barbarian?
Yeah, right. But you're gonna hear about it anyways, because I'm your father. And I'm like telling her, I'm like, Daniel, I'm like, you see the couple walking down the street. What's wrong with that picture? well, she's on the outside on near the curb. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's exactly how it should be, right? You tell me what's wrong, so you know how it should be right, right? And so, as you know, when I'm with Giselle, I try to point out like this is what we do, like this is what not the kids are always around, but I want them to see that,
See
right?
that nipple.
I tried to get my daughter's door from the car. She just gives me that look like, what are you doing? Right? Because, well, I
Get
mean,
out of here! Stop that!
yeah,
I'm gonna show
it is funny.
Yeah.
But that's society's telling them that we don't need you. We can do everything else. And that's, yes, you can do everything yourself, but doesn't mean you have to.
Take full
Right?
advantage of chivalry while it's still alive.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
No, I appreciate that. My bonus question, I know I said 5, jokingly and kiddingly, but there probably will be more. For those that are watching on YouTube, we need to know the name of your furry buddy and what kind of dog it is. Please.
So her name is Rain.
Sorry.
That's all right. And she's at least part German Shepherd and Husky. And if there's anything else mixed in, I have no idea.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I thank you for that. We got to talk about the main thing as well. So, the strength that you've already shown, thank you so much for, expressing that. I've actually gotten some relief, just from you telling, because I'm thinking the same thing. I get my son every other weekend through Tuesday, taking him to school, and it's straight in the phones, or he's off doing his own thing. I'm like, does he not want to talk to me? I'm his dad. But at the end of the day, it's like they know when to come to us. They know when to reach out to us. And same thing, I'll get questions. I'm like, oh, wow, he's asking me stuff. All right, I'm ready. Cool. I'm the coach now. So
That's right.
Life's Checkmark ranked in the top 10% of podcasts with over 190 episodes. Talk to me more about the podcast. What got you from that 0 to 190 plus?
Yeah. So let me first start. I wanted to know how other people experienced their life, right? And what they went through. And that's why I wanted to start the podcast. It wasn't to monetize, it wasn't to start an audience or anything like that, which now it's becoming that, but that's not what I wanted to do. And that would never, my focus would never shift into that direction either. So that's why I started. So people come on like yourself, being open, honest, authentic, vulnerable, and just have that conversation in the hopes that it helps and reaches that one person so they know they're not alone and they can get through whatever they're experiencing as well. So I started that, not knowing that it would be 3.5 years later, now over episode 200 and in the top 10% according to listen notes, and who knows whatever else is out there. I can't follow everything, but it's fun. It's definitely life-changing. Not so it's life-changing for myself as a host. As you know, I get to listen to a whole bunch of people just like yourself, and you get to take in all this information. Right now, I'm feeding you all this information about myself, and you can do whatever you want with it. So think of all the guests that you had that you could just, okay, there's a little tidbit there, a nugget. I can go ahead and run with that. I can share that to somebody else I know that's struggling, and this is going to help them. I could text it to them, right? And so as a host, you're growing. As a guest to come on, they get to share, and it's like therapeutic, right? They get to share their journey, and it like releases so much. I've had people come on, you might have gotten this too, where they go, I never shared that with anybody before.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And like, oh, okay. So you created a platform, you created a space for these people to just open up and pour, and not prying at them, but just that they know that, okay, this is safe, even if it's going to go out to millions of people, right?
Still, nobody.
Yeah, now everybody knows your business.
Right.
But so there's that, and then who knows, Danielle, how many people were touching outside of that?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're not going to get all the comments. You're not going to get all the likes. I got people that come up to me when I'm just walking around, like at church or whatever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw that post," but they don't thumbs up or anything like that. But they're like, "I see you. I see what you're doing." So you just got to keep showing up. And so for me, it's been a lot just being consistent. I do one per week, and there are sometimes where you're struggling, right? So maybe a guest fell off or whatever, and you might need to come up with a solo episode or something like that. But you just got to push through and not know where it's going to go, right? Do I want to get higher in the top 10%? I don't know. That's never been a goal of mine. It just happens to land there. Um, and so the people that are in the top 0.5 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
The
cool.
Gary V's of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of them are like that, right? Because they have a name already behind them or a brand or something. So they just basically start one and they're already there. Um, but yeah, just the whole podcast itself has changed my life completely as far as listening and meeting people and getting to point where I did an event over a year ago where it was just around podcasting, and then allowed me to start speaking. It allowed me to get some books. Allowed me now to become a publisher with this book with some guests, and I never saw that from the beginning. And so you, like yourself, having your own podcast, you could do anything.
Yeah.
There's so much out there. You just gotta go, I can make this happen. And you don't have to do anything like everybody else is doing. You just make it make it unique. And it's gonna be, as long as it's you from the heart, it's gonna work. Right. Somebody else might go, oh, take that idea. I'm gonna run with it. But I don't think they're gonna be passionate. They're not gonna have that desire or anything behind it as much as you. And so it might work for them for a little bit, but probably not the best, right?
Talk to me about the continuity of it. And I'm to blame as well, 200 plus as well, but it wasn't a consistent 200 plus. There were months that went by, didn't do a podcast. There was weeks that went by where it was just back to back to back. I remember when I was first starting off, I was doing 3 podcast episodes in a day like a madman. Like, I gotta get this out. I gotta share with the world. That continuity of it, I know that you said you're not looking to monetize or make a bunch of money off of it, but how do you keep going through it? How do you say like, all right, I got an episode this week, I want to put it out there. I got a guest this week, need to put it out there. And even when the guest doesn't show or they're late or saying something came up or they forgot today was the podcast, how do you, I guess, push through all that, John?
Yeah. So remember why you started, right? That's what I do. That's what I teach my clients too. I give them a PDF to know why your want, your reason, your desire for starting a podcast, and stick with that. Because there are going to be those moments you might go, okay, I want to give up. Like this isn't going anywhere. Let's just say audience became a problem. You wanted to grow, and you go, okay, this isn't doing it. I'm just going to quit. Well, why'd you start in the first place? Like, let's go back to that, right? It's just like having a relationship, right? You have to go back to where you were because now you're drifting away and you might be steering things in a different direction than what you wanted to. So you have to come back to, okay, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this. So let's move back to where it was, where we started. That's what I tell everybody. And that's what I do. Like I shared with you exactly why I started, and that's exactly why I keep going. And you know, I used life's check mark because I thought my life had to be checked off by having a job, going to college, and then having the family, the wife, the kids, and the house, and the 401k. Like that was the check mark in my mind that I had to complete for somebody else, right? And so let's relieve all that and let's just start checking our life off the way we want to, right? And so what's that look like to you? And you're doing it. You and I had that conversation. You're checking off, I'm going to go back to law school. I'm checking that box, right? That's me. I'm not going because somebody else told me to. I'm going because I want to. And your wife would probably support you and everything, which is great, which is what should happen. But you're checking your own life, right? You're not following somebody else's model, you know? And so for me personally, I felt like I was just doing what everybody else was telling me to do, whether they meant it or not. It was just what it felt like. And I didn't know that until after the fact, right? After everything fell apart. But that's what to go back to your question, that's what I tell everybody. Just go back to why you started. What is that? And if you start, Daniel, for an audience or monetizing, is it really worth it? Is it really why you want to get going? And let's just think about this as a business standpoint. If we were an entrepreneur, we were starting a podcast. It's not the podcast that's going to produce the money. It's going to be a funnel to your business, right? And it's going to just bring them to your business. And if you start thinking of it that way, instead of like, okay, I need to make money off of this podcast by sponsors or whatever, it's not going to happen. Sponsorships is so hard. I mean, there's ways we can make things happen. I've talked to a few people that have sponsors and stuff. And it's doable, for sure. But if you just structure it for yourself let's just use, for example, Daniel, you have a business, you want to start a podcast, you just start having guests come on. You build a relationship with those guests. They might, oh, I need your service, or I know somebody else that needs your service. And that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to sell anything at all, right?
Like, oh, okay. Hey, I'm actually looking to buy a house. All right, cool.
Yeah.
We were talking about selling candles, but yeah, that works. Let me get you over to an agent.
Right.
So yeah.
But like seriously, like after we're done here, and you could go, okay, you start saying, if you say your outro at the end, right? Some people do, some don't. But if you start saying, okay, and I can help you with service, blah, 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 blah. Well, the guests probably never even knew that. Now they're listening to you because you're still recording, they're in front of you, and then you're going to talk to them thereafter, right? So you're kind of opening up the doors a little bit, and they might go, what was that you said? You have an event coming up? What?
Right.
How do I get to be a speaker? Stuff like that.
Absolutely. I'm with them, man. Your podcast, because I'm all about subliminal messaging. Where can folks check it out? How can they subscribe?
Yeah, great question. So Apple, Spotify, it's all over the place. It's also on YouTube. So yeah, just Life's Checkmark. You can go to lifescheckmark.com too. I do have my book coming out, so I got on there where you can actually pre-order a signed copy of the book. So actually the book's coming out June 6th. So after the book is released, then I'll be able to get the books out with being signed, because we have a virtual launch coming up. So that day, and everybody, whoever's watching or whenever this comes out, Daniel, if you want, they can jump on the YouTube stream and they can watch us when we do the virtual launch.
Yeah, absolutely. When's the launch, John? Whether it's 6 months from now or 2028, when's the launch?
June 6th at 12 p.m. Eastern, 2026.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. And then the other question I want to ask you, you mentioned as far as, starting with their why, being their podcasting coach, the people that give up, the people that say, like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't even feel like doing the podcast. I was all about the money anyway in the first place. What's your advice to them? Or even the folks that are listening, like, I'm just trying to make $1,000 a week off of this. What's your advice to them about, trying to monetize something that should be a passion?
Yeah, that's I don't want to consider him a client, but I was on his podcast not long ago, and he's struggling, right? Because he does all the editing, and I do my editing too, but I don't do it as in depth as some people. I like to keep mine as natural and whatever, authentic as much as possible, right? But he wants to go in, edit, so he's probably spending hours and everything, and he's not seeing. He's got sponsors, but he's just not seeing the feeling of keep going with it. So I asked him, is there anything I can do to help? And he had me on his podcast, and he's like, you might be one of the last ones, or it might keep going. And it sounded like he might keep going. But I think what he's doing is he's draining himself. So he's trying to do too much and then edit so much and then have a tight schedule for everything else he's already doing. So for him, he might have to just cut back and do one per month, right? But he's still doing it, and he might get something out of it, whether it's the sponsorships or the guests that he has come on, or he's doing solo episodes. He's got an incredible journey. I'm gonna get him on my podcast, and I know he's gonna touch someone, right? And so I encourage him to keep going, but I can't make him keep going. So there's to give up for I have to share for me, I don't want to give up. And I told Giselle this not long ago, going through the Bible and everything and reading Abraham with the descendants of the stars, they're going to be your descendants, right?
Yeah.
As many as the stars or the sand on the beach. It took me a while to look at it this way and realize that for what I'm doing, I feel, stay with me here, I feel like the people I'm touching could be the stars, right? And they're not my descendants, but I'm reaching out to a whole bunch of people, right? And I don't know where that's going to go. And I pictured the book. There's 20 guests in there, and if they can get 10 people to buy the book, well, now it's another 10 just from that one author that they sold. I mean, this woman, sold 10, right? And then who knows where it's going to trickle from there. Now there's 20 stories in there. It's not just one. So which one are you going to connect with? And then can you hand it off to somebody else? I don't know. Like, but that's how I'm kind of like seeing it for me, like connecting the dots. It could be so vast, but you could be thinking so small by how many listens did I get today?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where it could be just that, it could be just you, Daniel, listening, and you could go, I'm going to share this. And then you send it out to 5 people, right? Or you just tell a friend about, I heard this on the podcast once, and they're like, oh yeah, well, that might help me. Let me go actually talk to somebody else about what you just shared with me. And never even listen to the episode, right? That's how I've been looking at it lately. And I don't know if I'm not trying to make people think that way, but if you start thinking bigger, I think it will give you that space to just keep going and not even care about the numbers. And that's another thing too. A lot of people get stuck in the downloads and everything like that. And really, your podcast is doing very well if you're getting some small downloads, because a lot of them don't get that many at all anyways. Right. It's just and I don't have the statistics on me off the top of my head or anything, so I don't want to give out fake numbers. But I do know 345,000 post one new episode every 90 days, which is not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing it every week, you're way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
There's so much room for growth here. Everybody just gives up because it's a lot of work. But if they can get around that part, or if they hired it out, it could be something so great and so rewarding just to help so many people. So I encourage everybody that has one to kind of keep going, or they pivot, right? Maybe it's something they fell in love with when they started, but now they don't love with the topic as much anymore. I do have a woman that just joined the Podcasters Hub, and she's talking about doing something just like that. She's like, do I go ahead and start a new podcast? You can, but why don't you just start with the podcast you already have, change the name. You already have listeners sitting on there, right? Whether they listen to you or not, right? And they could just, okay, well, now she wants to talk about, God or whatever, right? And so now they're stuck talking to you, listening to you talk about God, right? And they can cancel if they want to, but they probably won't. So just starting with that, because now you have an audience that's already been following you. And I know some big name people that I listened to, and they pivot along the way, because now they're like, okay, I'm tired of talking about this, because now they stepped out of that position, and they want to start talking about entrepreneurship or men's health or something like that. And that's just the way they start navigating.
No, I appreciate that. The pivot part. Funny you should bring that up. I did an anthology, first time being a published author, and mind you, I did the book maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. So given a timeline, folks, didn't think of nothing of it, put my chapter out there, called it a day. I bring it up in a work group chat to say, hey, yeah, I'm an author. I got a book too. And my coworker's like, what do you mean? You're an author? I'm like, yeah, it's on Amazon. I could share it. I don't make any money off of it, but yeah, it's out there. And she read the story, because I was talking about as far as how I was almost didn't graduate college because I was hit with a bunch of courses and such. And she was like, thanks, Dan, for sharing your story. I was inspired by it. And I'm like, wow. So I encourage that, as you brought it out, Jon, to pivot, be authentic, and if you need to switch it up, you need to switch it up. Because people are going to see, through the lines that, hey, oh, this person's just doing it for money, or they're using way too much AI and reading from a script. And it's like, oh, well, if ChatGPT says I got to say this, then I'll make a bunch of money. The other thing that I want to get to is not so much the book or the podcast. I want to talk about, as far as, I guess, that guest that got away. Has there ever been a moment where, because us being podcasters, it's like we're on time. We're the ones that are ahead of the schedule. We're the ones that, got everything lined up. Has there ever been that opportunity where you yourself, you're like, dang it, I missed out on this opportunity with this guest, or I just missed that opportunity in general. How, did you get past that, or how did you overcome that?
As far as them not showing up?
No, as far as like as there, or are you perfect, John? I know I've just
Oh,
had.
yes, I'm right on. Yeah. Dead
Like, what do you
perfect.
mean? Look at me. Look at me. Now,
Yeah, I'm giving it to you.
no, like I had one where I had the times wrong. I thought we said 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They were thinking 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I was asking them, like, hey, I'm so sorry. Can we reschedule? They're like, nah, I'm good, and went off. And I'm like, dang. And they were really good guests. They were top notch guests too. And I'm like, dang, what could I have done for my podcast? But for you yourself, has there ever been that opportunity where, you being at fault, and how did you overcome that? How did you become greater from it?
Yeah, first of all, I apologize if it, when it happens, right? Even if I have to cancel last minute because of something else going on at the house. And I had guests cancel on me, right? So things happen. And so I'll share, that's why we have a backlog, right? So record some just in case because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the ones that got away, so I just start to look at it as it was just meant to be, right? Or it was not meant to be. Uh, if it's the timing or whatever, sometimes it just doesn't happen. I'll go on if nobody jumps on in 5 minutes, I'm done. I move on to the next thing. I'm not waiting around, whether it's technology or whatever. I'm not waiting around. Sorry, I just lost my voice there for a minute. I'm not waiting around, right? And if we have to reschedule, we will. I understand circumstances come up, and I usually try two, maybe three times, and if after that, if I don't hear from you, then so be it. It's just what it is for me. There's plenty of other people out there, I think, that could share what they have to share, and if they really want to, they will step up. Uh, but that's how I kind of navigate it. Like it's okay. Like I'm not going to beat myself up over it. There are some great people that have something to share, and maybe it's just not their time. Um, but yeah, I don't want to say it happens a lot, and it probably,
No, no, no.
yeah,
I could
because
probably count two
I'm
that
perfect, right?
is definitely it, because it is a life lesson. Like, oh shoot, this will never happen again. I will be
Yeah,
checking my calendar. But I love what you said. If it's meant to be, it was meant to be. So no,
yeah.
thank you for that. As we're wrapping up, John, because we've been talking for quite some time and I'm loving it. What's one piece of advice that you could share with the audience today that they could take with them?
Yeah, I just want everybody to move forward, right? And just like we had it on when you were on mine, like resilience and just keep moving forward. Don't give up on anything. And as I share, know that you're not alone, right? Reach out for help, whatever you're going through. If I didn't do it, I've had people tell me a podcast saved my life. And, it takes me a while to think about that. And it's possible that it could have, right? I don't know where I could have went. I can't say I had the thoughts of committing suicide, but I did learn going through that 10 men commit suicide every day from divorce. And that was back then. Who knows what it is now? And I'm not talking about right away, but things carry out. So you never know who can help you along the way. And so if you don't speak up and start sharing things, hopefully to the right people, um, you never know where the help is going to come from to actually get you out of the hole, like you did with your friend when you were on my podcast and you shared that, right? For me, it was the men's group that kind of helped me out of that hole, and I'm still getting help from other people with everything I'm dealing with now, right? And we're all dealing with things, right? So um, there's that, and then just for me, it's been about like circumstances, right? Not letting them determine who my my identity. It's just navigating through what it is and just getting to the other side. And so you're supposed to be here at this moment, at this time, for whatever reason that is. Um, for me, it's been been putting me on this path, and I don't know where it's going, but I know it's something for so much greater. So I just been riding that wave for a little while right now, and just seeing where the faith takes me. And so if you haven't found faith, find faith, and let the weight be lifted off of you. Give him all your worries, your doubts, your fears, and just know that everything will be okay.
Amen and amen, John. Couldn't have said it better. Appreciate you, brother. As we're wrapping up, subliminal message number 2. John, where can folks find you at, and where can they listen to the podcast?
Yeah, so they can find me on Facebook, Jonathan Emery. I think it's .Emery or whatever. They can just look me up. I have a headset on in my picture. It's orange background. Well, I don't think the orange background is on the picture. Life's Checkmark. They can go to lifescheckmark.com. There they can find out information about Podcasters Hub, my podcast coaching program, the amplifier for podcasters I just started, and then they can find out about the book. We will be doing another book, so I'm looking for guests that want to be part of that, and also doing a podcast book too. So there's that, and then they can go listen to it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, everywhere. Whatever device they're using, they can find me.
Love it, John. I appreciate you so much. Definitely going to be a memorable podcast. And we made history, folks. We had back-to-back podcasts. I was on his earlier, now he's on mine. So thank you so much for that. John, I appreciate you. I value you. Thank you, my brother, for coming on, sharing. I'm uplifted even more, father to father. So definitely for the fathers out there, please tune into this episode. But yeah, thank you so much, John, for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the RNG Radio Show. Be sure to like and subscribe for more episodes and future content. If you'd like to learn more, visit us at danielumstead.com. Stay blessed, my fellow millionaires.